By the time it launched on October 1st, 2007, new ideas and initiatives were piled on top of the original concept. In addition to being a morning program, the BPP was also a podcast and a blog and a video series, and was also broadcast on a few terrestrial NPR stations, plus a few other things as well. That was the hidden lesson of the Bryant Park Project. It became so many things that it actually was nothing at all. The project had bloated to the point that no one, including those who initially created it, could really define it anymore. After telling the staff and publicly throwing in the towel, we picked a date for the last show, July 25th, 2008. On that day, I went up to the NPR New York Bureau to be there for the last show. During the final segment, host Allison Stewart brought senior supervising producer Matt Martinez and the entire staff into the studio. They all talked about favorite moments, acknowledged one another's talents and dedication to the project, then said goodbye to the audience they had spent the last 10 months building. I watched all this pain and remember saying to myself, I will never let this happen again. Even then, I knew I could not prevent failure, but there were so many red flags on this journey, so many signs that things weren't right. There were so many questions that could have been asked and answered earlier. If that work had been done, it wouldn't have guaranteed a different outcome, but it certainly could have provided a stronger chance for survival. Having a clear definition of what the show was and what it wasn't wouldn't have prevented a once-in-a-generation economic event, but it certainly could have prevented a dozen talented young people in tears wondering why they had poured themselves into a project for a year, yet were told they had failed, though no one could clearly express how or why. You couldn't even have a real conversation about whether the Bryant Park Project was good or not, because no one could really agree what it was. There has to be a better way to do this, I remember thinking. There has to be a way to mitigate a lot of this lack of clarity and these abundant unknowns. I will never let this happen again. The second important date happened 6.5 years later, January 10th, 2015. On that day, I was riding the metro through downtown Washington, D.C. The train was pretty busy for a Saturday, but it was still quiet enough that I could hear a conversation across from me. One couple was telling another couple about a story they had just heard on a new podcast called Invisibilia. It was the story of Martin Pistorius, a man who'd been trapped inside his paralyzed body for 12 years, unable to communicate. It was the lead story in the first episode, which had only debuted the day before. Right then, I knew that my work, as well as podcasting in general, had really taken a new and uncharted turn, and an exciting one, too. I was the executive producer for Invisibilia's first season. It was a show I had just spent the better part of a year working on, and I was experiencing a holy grail white whale unicorn moment, hearing random people in public professing their love for something I helped make happen. The moment went by so quickly, I immediately texted my wife and told her about it. You sure? She texted back. Perhaps they were just talking about something that sounded similar. Trains are noisy, you could have gotten confused. I didn't blame her for being skeptical. It was a really weird thing to have happened. The show was less than 2 days old, so I reluctantly agreed with her. It couldn't have been, I thought. Then, the very next day, my wife and I were out to lunch, and mid-meal, I realized that the woman at the very next table was sharing something familiar with her 4 lunchmates. I heard the most amazing story, she said. On this new podcast, I think it's called Invisibilia or something like that. She told the exact same story about Martin and his paralysis. I looked at my wife. She'd heard it too. Neither of us could believe it. Once, maybe, but twice? Within 24 hours? A lot of people loved Invisibilia. That first season was downloaded tens of millions of times in the weeks following those 2 encounters. And the reason this all made me so happy was because Invisibilia's success wasn't really an accident. My role in Invisibilia came about when one of its co-founders, Alex Spiegel, shared an early version of one of the episodes with me and asked if I could help her and her co-host, Lulu Miller, make this into a show. At the time, I loved the stories they were working on and was really honored that they trusted me enough to help make their passion a reality.